Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me with this meditation and followed by a talk as a usual program. So please bring yourself with a good space and generate a good motivation as we will screen share the prayers to tune up and start up your bodhicitta motivation and refuge in the triple gem, and to dedicate these efforts for the benefit of all sentient beings. So then after that, we'll be doing 3 lots of 10 minutes of meditation. I'll simply use the gong and ask all of you to use your techniques to stay fully present in a calm, peaceful, and serene state of mind. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aitere Pite Latama Bhavacha Ajendala Ajare Padavatuve Pendabu Dhamma Sangha Aitere Pite Latama Bhavacha Ajendala Ajare Padavatuve Pendabu Dhamma Sangha Aitere Pite Latama Bhavacha Ajendala Ajare Padavatuve Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aitere Pite Latama Bhavacha Ajendala Ajare Padavatuve. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion of those near and far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and a cause of suffering. May they never part from happiness that know no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion of those near and far. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on all these different platforms. This morning, the topic of the talk is importance of the Fourfold Sangha. The Sangha in Buddhism is the third object of refuge, and also the Sangha in that case is also the subject of the refuge too. So because the Sanghas themselves are what we call the exalted Sangha, those who are Arhats and Bodhisattvas, they are the kind of ultimate Sangha. And then conventional Sanghas, whether they are fully ordained or laymen or laywomen or fully ordained female, they are all themselves seek refuge in the triple gem, of which Sangha is the third gem. So of course, in the early time when the Buddha gave teachings, there is no triple gem. There was only Buddha gem. And so the triple gem wasn't something that came all of us out of a sudden. At first, there was only one gem, and that was the Buddha gem. And why? Because gem is very rare. The enlightened one is very, very rare, and does not occur in dark eons, only in very fortunate bright eons. So the coming of the Buddha gem is very, very rare. So without the Buddha, there is no Dharma gem. So when the Buddha gem only comes from the realization of enlightenment, and the teaching the Buddha gave becomes the Dharma gem. So the Buddha's teaching is the realizational teaching of the Dharma, but teaching that he gave to people is the actual scriptural teachings. So also in terms of the Dharma, the ultimate Dharma is the realizational Dharma, and the relative Dharma is the scriptural Dharma. Scriptural Dharma is the relative. We will not share the photos. We will share toward the end from 12:30 onwards. I text you. Yeah. So, yeah, we were going to share some photos, but not until the end because it'll be a bit distracting. That's what I thought. In relevance to the topic today, the Fourfold Sangha, we're going to share some photos, but we will only share towards the end of the talk so that we can focus on the topic at the beginning. So the Dharma-wise, the scriptural teachings Buddha gave is the scriptural Dharma, and so the actual Dharma that is refuge is realizational Dharma. And so Dharma gem is rare because Dharma gem is rare because it's only taught by the Buddha. Then there is a scriptural Dharma. And Dharma gem is only realizational Dharma gem if the Sanghas practiced and realized the Dharma. So first the conventional Sangha, like the ordinary layman or laywoman, or ordained man or ordained woman, if any of these fourfold Sanghas listen to the scriptural teachings and then meditated and practiced the three higher trainings of self-discipline, meditation, and wisdom, then they gain the realizational. And then those who have the realizational of Dharma and are able to gain the state of arhathood or bodhisattvahood, then they become this Sangha gem. They are ultimate Sangha. But relative Sangha is anyone who has gone for refuge in the triple gem, either as a, and then take maybe more specific vows like a novice man or novice girl, or a fully ordained man or fully ordained woman, bhikkhu or bhikkhunis. So these the individuals who have sought refuge, taken pratimoksha vows, even as far as bhikkhu and bhikkhunis, as well as lay men and lay women, these are all relative members of the Sangha. No individual is a Sangha. Sangha means community. You can't call a person community. But every individual, whether they are lay man who has refuge or lay woman who has refuge, and a fully ordained monk or fully ordained nun, any of these four are members of the Fourfold Sangha. And then if there is the existence of these four members in a community, then they have what we call the Sangha as a conventional Sangha as a community. And so that's why the hello. So there are some what do you call Buddhist tourists visiting our center. So I'm just saying hello to them. Buddhist pilgrims, rather. Mostly they are Bhutanese. So the Sangha is also has a relative Sangha and ultimate Sangha. So relative Sangha is wherever there is these four members of the community, a man, woman, and fully ordained monk or fully ordained nun. If there is these fourfold members in a community, then there is a complete Sangha, fourfold Sangha. Now, it is said that a place or a country where they have all the four members of the Sangha, this is only conventional Sangha, not ultimate Sangha, then it is said that Dharma actually, the gem of Dharma exists. Why? There is these fourfold members of the Sangha who ensures the propagation, study, the meditation and practice of the teachings. The role of each of the fourfold members of Sangha is different. Maybe the laymen and laywomen usually are the providers, benefactors, and we can call the devotees and sponsors. And fully ordained monk and nun usually are the ones who teach, who guide, and who practice, and who remain in good discipline. So the dependence on each of the four members of the Fourfold Sangha to each other is very important, because if fully ordained monk and nun, if there are some, they are able to live the life of a fully ordained monk and nun if they themselves have good discipline, good meditation, good teaching skills, which is highly valued by the layman and laywoman Sangha community. If the layman and laywoman Sangha community is receiving the guidance, gets the inspiration, gets the knowledge and services that the fully ordained monk and nun provides, then there is a mutually respected, and the services offered by the Sanghas are needed by the lay people. Lay people are able to offer food and basic material necessity for the Sangha, because that is also needed by the full ordained Sanghas members. Now, this is the ideal situation of the Fourfold Sangha members working harmoniously, respectfully together, as if there is an established Buddhist community. Now, you can say this Fourfold Sangha setup does exist in most traditional ethnic Buddhist communities, even though how the lay fully ordained monks and fully ordained nuns are supported by the laymen, laywomen is a different setup in different Buddhist community. but they are mainly dependent on the devotees' faith and inspiration they get from the ordained Sangha members. Ordained Sangha members doesn't have to be necessarily ordained Sangha. It could be laymen or laywomen who are guiding their Sangha. And ideally, it will be good if all the fourfold members of Sanghas are working together. When the Buddha taught the Dharma, and because he had students who heard him teach the Dharma, and who thereby became devotees, and then they came the existence of Sangha. So out of the three gems, Buddha gem came first, which is very, very rare. And the Buddha teaches the Dharma, and the Dharma that is taught by the Buddha becomes highly valued panacea by the Sangha. Sanghas are ordinary people. Sangha members are mostly ordinary people who may have taken some degree of vows and precepts, depending to their levels of commitment. Even in the Pratimoksha, in the Theravada, there are at least 7 or 8 types of Pratimoksha vows. As only 4 of them, 4 out of the 7 Pratimoksha vows are ordained monastics. The Shramanera, that's novice boy. Shramaneri, that's a novice girl. And then Bhikkhu is the fully ordained man, and Bhikkhuni is fully ordained nun. And then the other 3 are laymen, lay people who have just gone for refuge, and then others who may have taken the 8 precepts for life, and others who are taking the 8 precepts just for a day at a time. And so you can have all kinds of pratimoksha holder, pratimoksha holder practitioners according to the Theravadan levels of the vows. So the monastics are only smaller number of the Sangha members. And if you have 1 or 2 monks or maybe a couple of nuns in a community, that will be countable on your fingers, maybe 4 or 5. But the lay community may be a couple of hundred, couple of thousands. So you can see the number of fully ordained monks and nuns are always few. Why? It's exclusively very difficult to live as a fully ordained monk or nun. And some may be not really able to live quite a lot of the vows as by the book because of their various limitations, their health, their various things. They can't. So therefore, even among the ordained monks, ordained nuns, there are some only temporary. Some only are ordained temporarily, only for a couple of weeks. They had no intention of staying a fully ordained monk or nun the rest of their life. They have already intention to disrobe in 2 weeks' time, and during that 2 weeks, they might take some kind of retreat and shave and live as a ordained monk or nun. So that shows how many types of Sangha members are there, even temporarily ordained, and then some ordained for life, but actually not succeed to stay ordained for life. But whereas in the lay Sangha community, layman and laywoman, because of their levels of commitment of vows and precepts are not so demanding, they remain always as a lay devotee. There's no time a layman Buddhist stop being layman Buddhist, or laywoman Buddhists do not become a laywoman Buddhist, because their level of commitment is consistent to offer, to provide, to donate, to sponsor the temples and monastics whenever they can, but otherwise they actually lead their everyday life. but nevertheless, such many devotees, lay devotees, are necessary, important members of the Sangha because they are the providers. But they can only provide if they are inspired by the ordained Sangha members and Sangha community. Often, when Buddhism does not get established strongly, or totally sort of collapses, like in India case, it's because they run out of monks who are willing to keep the vows and precepts, and they become more degenerate, more materialistic, and they didn't study well, and they didn't meditate, and they didn't teach well. They don't know how to teach very well. As a result of that, they have no lay devotees or followers. So you can see wherever there is Dharma spreading, there is this important harmonious working all together of laymen, laywomen, and ordained monk and ordained nuns. So even among the ordained monastics, they have to actually live together as a community. And there are lots of people who are not able to live together with anybody. They may have shaven, they may have taken vows to be Buddhist monastic, but they are not easy to get on and live with anybody. So because they are not able to, they don't lift their weight to in the study, in the organization, in the meditation, and the discipline, they're mainly wearing robes, and they think they have some kind of right to be served, to be provided. So there's some kind of misunderstanding in the West that there is a right. The Sangha needs to be supported. Of course, Sangha will be supported if he or she is fitting, and they are actually sticking with us, community, contributing to them, and leading by example of selflessness and good discipline, good meditation, and knowledge. If they bring those things, I don't think no Buddhist ordained for Sangha members will ever go hungry. It is not that that people can't afford to support Sangha. It's because they do not find someone who is worthy of having that command of respect, either by their discipline or their knowledge or their goodness. If all of their knowledge and the discipline and goodness, all these three qualities are there, there will be no shortage of lay devotees, lay Sangha members to support such a Sangha member. But you will notice that quite a lot of the places, the ordained Sangha members think that they are entitled to be supported, and they will automatically be supported if they are in an established Buddhist community. But where there is no real established Buddhist community, where Buddhist people are minority, and those who practice are themselves a limited number, and they are not all working harmoniously together within a unit of community. The Sangha means a community organization. In Australia, it is the community organization has to be registered as a charitable association, and in the members of the Sangha, ordained Sanghas are leading by examples. Then I'm sure the lay people, lay devotees, even among non-ethnic Buddhist community, will not run short of those who support the Sangha. And but as you know, that people are very individualistic. In the 21st century, people live very individualistic life. They don't want to stick together. They wanted to move out even from their families, remember? So they are not willing to cooperate, respect, and live by our rules and regulation of an established place. They are not, if they are not willing to lift the weight and contribute equally and work harmoniously, do work together with the group, If they're not willing to do that, merely donning on the robe does not really represent the ordained Sangha. So that's the part of the reason why some individual Sangha members do not find anywhere they can fit in, because not because there are no Buddhist communities, because they are not a fit Sangha member. They're only donning on the robe, but they are not themselves either disciplined enough, or harmoniously, or respectful, or knowledgeable, or they don't have good characters. If they themselves lack this, then there would not be lay Buddhist man or lay Buddhist woman who will be faithful or devoted enough to support such a individual. They are not changing their ways to delight and to inspire others. So that's why while the fourfold members of the Sangha is very important to establish, they are all dependent on each other. And because lay people depend on someone who they can learn from, who they can become inspired by, and who has certain good characters they actually they can count on. If they have this kind of setup, then both lay and ordained Sangha communities will work together. If an ordained Sangha member do not stick with the group, not even among the ordained ones, let alone their community, then they are not really fit, because it is said in the Vinaya that you need to at least attend fortnightly session with the rest of other ordained Sangha members, during which they should do a communal confession, that I call uposhada. If they don't attend the fortnightly uposhada communal confession, even if they live together, they still have a lot of infractions. They all commit many, many infractions, according to Vinaya. And they can communally confess and pardon each other, and as long as they attend that regularly every week, every 2 weeks. If they did that, then they are a member of a ordained Sangha community. We call that sojong in Tibetan. In Sanskrit and Pali, they call uposhada. The uposhada is where lay people can come and take precepts, where the ordained monk and nun can go and restore their broken vows, minor ones, and renew their vows. If they don't do that regularly together with the community, they are not fit to be an ordained Sangha, to receive alms and donation from others. So there are very clear guidelines what constitute an ordained Sangha member. If he doesn't have a very good discipline himself, if his knowledge is not that adequate to teach others, and if he has no kindness and compassion and tolerance, of course, such a person, even in many golden robes, will only be a robe in form, but there is no robe without substance. So what kind of importance is the robe with substance? The one who is wearing robes and who hold the position, of course, need to lift up his or her role. We see quite a lot of individual ordained people who take the ordination, but they are really, really difficult to work with anybody. They just wanted to appear as they belong to some peak Buddhist organizations, but they hardly do anything with the community. So that kind of individuals doesn't actually have any lay people who they can help to, and so that's why if the Buddhism is going to be established in a new land, such as in Australia, it will need to see the existence of fourfold members of Sangha working together harmoniously. And when I look around, say here in Canberra, we can hope to see the existence of fourfold Sangha in Buddhist community. There hardly is any Buddhist community that has all the fourfold members of the Sangha, even in their own community. probably the Vietnamese Buddhist community, my colleague and friend, Venerable Thich Quang Ba, he is a fully ordained monk, and then he hardly has anyone staying long as a novice monk. He has them for a few months, a few years, and then they disappear. They don't stay long. And also, he doesn't have any bhikkhunis, fully ordained bhikkhunis with him. He may have some ceremoniaras, some novice girls, and he has laymen and laywomen. So looks like his community has a reasonable form and shape and also substance of a Buddhist community, because all the 4 members of the Sangha, whether one of them is missing, like maybe no bhikkhunis, but there is definitely bhikkhu, that's Venerable Thich Quang by himself, and then he has lay devotees and maybe some ceremoniaries. So maybe he has at least 2 or 3 of the Sangha members of the community. And you can see there things looks working much better. They have the population. They have the biggest Buddhist population because there is a strong Vietnamese community. But he has not attracted any say non-Vietnamese as his disciple for whatever the reason is. Neither as maybe there are some lay devotees. I don't know. I haven't seen them. Lay Western devotee, I haven't seen any, either as a man or woman, let alone a monk or nun. He doesn't have them. So therefore you can see ethnic Buddhist teachers or communities aren't quite able to establish members of the local community to become part of that. So I'm not saying there are no supporters or no devotees, generally speaking, but as a technically saying, fully ordained monk, fully ordained nun, and Buddhist lay women working harmoniously is very, 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 very difficult. And if you look at the up the road, there is a Thai Buddhist monastery. Actually, it has about 6 or 7 monks. And I believe some of them are fully ordained monks and some are ceremoniaries, but there is not a single nun, not even ceremoniaries, let alone bhikkhunis, in the Thai tradition. So there is no complete Sangha there. They have lots of lay people, laymen and lay women, devotees, that's no shortage of. But they have no ordained bhikkhuni, and then I don't know whether they have any novice nuns. Because remember, in Thai, in strict Buddhist monastics, monk and nun should not live together. And they shouldn't. And if they have a good setup within the compounds, then of course it doesn't mean the novice girls shouldn't be allowed. But we don't see them. You hardly see any of them. So that their community is larger, second largest than Vietnamese, but there also you don't see all the. And if any of these Buddhist community were to work together in spite of their different ethnic background, so if you look at that, then you could see in a town like Canberra, you can see if all of them came together and work together, which they never do, because everyone has their own little temple and groups, and they hardly are able to do things together. When they do, how they do, what language they use, how they support, how they do, totally different setup. So you can see each of these Buddhist communities are very small, often very fractured. They are not really community as such. They really come and go. They come and go. So in the Anglo-Saxon Buddhist community, that's a totally different. If you have anyone interested in to show up through the door and listen and come to the teachings regularly, that shows that there are laymen and laywomen who are keen to learn the Dharma, and so some organizations have good structures and good system where people come and become members. They take up roles and responsibility in the committee according to the rules of the association. And so if the structure is kept and going, I think that would be regarded as a Sangha, because what constitutes as an association is that association is governed by rules and regulation, and the members are either ordained or not ordained, or men or women without discrimination, are equal members of the community, work together. So a lot of the non-ethnic Buddhist communities are probably better structured because they adhere to the rules of the association. Now, if the center or community is registered as a charitable association and they adhere to it, so that will be the scene. The importance of the four members of Sangha is when there is layman, laywoman, as well as fully ordained monk and nun working together, then amongst them there will be always someone who is more knowledgeable, disciplined, and with good characters, and hold the kind of rein very well, and others get inspired, and that organization or that Buddhist community will stay strong to uphold the teachings. There will be regular teachings, there will be practice sessions, there will be system of promoting the teachings, well supported. As long as an organization like our Tibetan Buddhist Society Canberra, we are now nearly 35 years old, we have really stayed very strong from that point of view, from that point of view. But if we would be the probably most willing organization to work with others who would open their arms to do things together. And so, of course, in the early stages of the 1990s, we used to work with all the other Buddhist community. We used to celebrate Vesak together once a year, and invite each other, and make sure the chantings, the prayers done in all languages, and we do the dana ceremony and all of that at least once a year. These are the early 90s, and until late 90s we used to do them every year. And that time, what happened, reason why we were doing together is none of the organization were that built enough to do things by themselves, And then over the years, each of the ethnic Buddhist communities develop their own little groups and temples, and then build their own little temples or shrines, and they do in their own way, and because of that they have become more distant from each other and become more independent of each other. And in many ways it's good, because they're all now structured organization, and all of them like the Theravadan groups, you will see the monks come, but they never have the same monk again. The monks stay a few years, and then he leaves or he disrobed, and then sometimes there's nobody there for a little while. And then Thai community is a little bit much more stronger, because they seem to get at least 4 or 5 monks together to give the monks also a company of monks. Otherwise, it's not really conducive for them to live in suburban Australian homes, so as a monastic, they can never go out and go for alms, because nobody will do them. So they have to organize themselves within the temple how to support the monastics. So the Thai and Burmese and Sri Lankans are very organized by the lay people. Lay people really are rostered to do the things like cooking and serving and driving around their monks here and there. The whole community's activities is rostered to who will do what, and the lay community is really doing lots of things as much as the monks are, because monks can do only teaching and doing the services, but they have to be practically supported by the lay community. And and when there is more than 2 or 3 monks together, like the Thai community, or then they seem to work much better because they have at least a system of the ordained monks themselves supporting each other, learning from each other, and then the lay people also seem to have a very good system to support them. But where there is only one monk, and then how long he will able to adapt his life to the community and in the West is often a very challenging situation. You can see so many changes and failure to adapt has happened, and the community sometimes have no one there. And remember, in the Theravadan tradition, the guiding and leading is only done by a monk. And they will never think of asking a nun to do that. They think the nuns are never meant to lead. So hardly any. There are places where there are nuns, but nuns are only kept to limited chores, and not very few nuns are coming forward with the knowledge, education, and goodness. I'm not saying they are not permitted, but seems to be quite limited who has those. Often the nuns are people who become nun in their late 70s or 60s or 40s, and often widows or have difficult time, and they never studied enough. So they're only in robes, but haven't really have studied. They don't know to teach, and they don't have competence to teach, and also they have no sort of confidence. And I don't think maybe nobody empowers them, because they are a little bit gender biased in most of the Buddhist traditions, unfortunately. So you can see that while bhikkhunis and ceremoniaries are just as important members of the Fourfold Sanghas, they don't seem to be there very much. They don't are respected, and also they don't seem to be any who are respected. Those who are respected are solitary realizers. They travel around here and there, but they don't have a place where they are able to build a community. So you can see one or two nuns who may be traveling around teaching, but that nun actually doesn't have a place of a called community where she actually has a base to inspire others. So she might be able to go around teaching, but she actually isn't able to hold a community on her own for whatever restrictions or limitations the Buddhist community are placing, because female leadership is never been empowered properly. I'm not saying that doesn't exist. Like there are some Western nuns, not many unfortunately, have actually started their own communities, teaching in the West, and then have some followers, both laymen and laywomen, maybe also bhikkhunis, but maybe no bhikkhus will study under them. So there is that kind of a fractured system, that bhikkhunis, senior bhikkhunis, whose knowledge, who's good, who's disciplined, and who's very organized, may have female followers, maybe some laymen followers, but in her community, they don't seem to have any bhikkhunis. So you can see the male-female situation, as well as caste system of saying that bhikkhus and novice boys are always senior, no matter how senior the bhikkhunis are. This kind of thing in the tradition of Buddhist Vinaya situation seems very, very discouraging for all the 4 members of the Sanghas working together, particularly in a Western modern context. But what the purpose of my today's talk is, while the Fourfold members of Sanghas are important, and each Buddhist community are at least have laymen and laywomen, and some of the community have at least ordained monk or ordained nun, if not at least a leader among their own communities. Like in Tibetan Buddhism, we do not. Tibetan Buddhism, in as early as the 9th century, they allowed that the householder monastics and the monastic monastics. Householder monastics are they are householders. They are not celibate. They are householders, but they actually study and knowledge practices is just as good as some of the monastics. And so there are many monasteries and many temples who are led, and the community who are led by such individuals. And if they do that, this is the strength of Tibetan Buddhism, particularly in the most of the other tradition. Nowadays, they also call laymen, the geshes, and so on. So maybe even in the Gelugpa tradition, they might accept a layman geshe who have academic knowledge of geshe, but is not a monk anymore. He or she can maybe lead such Buddhist community. But in the other Tibetan traditions, Nyingma, Sakya, and Kagyu, there's lots of householder Rinpoches and Lamas who are not monastic as a celibate. They are householder monastics, and they are actually guiding huge communities. And this is the strength of Tibetan Buddhism, is they have many householder monastics, like the whole Sakya lineage is led by householder monastics. The only householder, but actually their study, their training, their practice is just as adequately trained as the monastic, if not better. So the household and Nyingma tradition has got many lamas who are also householder, meaning they all have families. Outwardly, you may not see them as householders because they're all shaven and wear their robes exactly as ordained monks. So it is a bit confusing for outsiders. But within the Tibetan tradition, and particularly those who know the Nyingma has many householder lamas and rinpoches who all have families, but they are completely 100% commitment, full-time study, full-time meditation and practice, and lead the community in hundreds. Now, if you go to Bhutan or Himalayan regions of Buddhism, they are all householder monastics, and they are themselves householders, but their disciples are monastics. And the monastics have received their vows from someone, but they are all followers of such. And they have nuns and monks and householder laymen, householder women who practice full-time. And they are they have very less judgment about who is what, who is monk, who is not. They don't have that much. And so they have a much stronger community work, because everybody comes, It's not only the monastics. Some monasteries, they don't allow even girls to come in or stay in the monasteries. So very strict men's monasteries are men-only places, So this kind of segregation of the gender, and someone being the between gender and also between the monks who fully ordained monks, and novices are always like servants to the fully ordained ones, and novices have to always have to serve, and fully ordained monks are the one who served. So there is a lot of kind of system and roles within each of the members of the Sangha. Now, when the person becomes a senior fully ordained monk, like more than 20 years, of course they become respected as a Mahastavira. They go Mahastavira. Mahastavira means the one who has remained firm for many years. So 20 over years of one who has been fully ordained is called Mahastavira. It's not a name given to the title of the academic. It's merely because they have remained stable as a monastic over 20 years, not over monastic, but as a fully ordained bhikkhu more than 20 years. is regarded as a Mahastavira in the Theravadan tradition. And there are not that many, by the way. Reason, because there are not many who are able to stay that way. But where there is a Mahastavira, who he usually have a half a dozen disciples under him, even if they are in the West. So you can see where there are important members of the Fourfold Sangha, such as the fully ordained monk is there, then he has novices, then he has laymen, laywomen. Maybe he hasn't got a fully ordained woman, or even a novice woman, because of their tradition. Some of the traditions are very restrictive and very inward looking. So that's why even in the West, when some prominent teachers like Ajahn Brahm try to ordain some women in Perth, he was quite misunderstood by the very orthodox his parent tradition, Thai his monastery. So they wouldn't like to make such changes, and they're not very accepting of that. So there's a lot of challenges to establish a Buddhist community with fourfold sanghas, and but that doesn't mean that the Dharma doesn't spread. We are now living in an age of technology. Virtual Dharma is very easily accessible, and you don't have to put up with anybody under one roof, or doesn't have to share the same kitchen, or that everybody can learn and study and practice virtually, and so therefore we are living in quite a different time, and therefore there's always accessibility of Dharma has much more increased. So some people's Dharma teacher is YouTube and Zoom, and so it is through YouTube they can access a lot of teachings, and they learn the teachings, they practice the meditations, and so and they may not be able to physically participate in a Sangha, even as an ordained monk, ordained nun, or layman, laywoman, for whatever reasons. They still don't have to feel so disconnected, So distance is not a problem anymore, but as long as one is connected with the heart, with the teachings, to the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and then treat other fellow like-minded Dharma brothers and sisters and support each other, whether it's in their study or their practice or their meditation, whatever, we can support each other in the time of death or sickness or whatever. If the community associated through this kind of network of fellowship, that is probably going to replace what is traditional role of the indispensability of Fourfold Sangha. Now, having said this, this talk today is prompted by a conference that was held here in Canberra over the weekend. This conference is Australia Sangha Association. And this Australia Sangha Association, I know when they started it, and when they started the thing and we looked at the constitution, it very, very much was an exclusive ordained Sangha only. So it was only for ordained Sangha as full membership. Others are not as permitted as full membership. So, I wasn't able to join with the Australia Sangha Association, both in physically as well as a member, because they didn't allow people like me because they think I'm not ordained or something, which is completely disputable, because in Mahayana Buddhism, people who have Bodhisattva vows is a full practitioner as well as Vajra initiate. They have all of that. But anyway, so recent, and they had this annual AGM member annual general meeting here in Canberra. And Venerable Thich Kongpa, who is the host he says, "Oh, Lama Choedak, you should come." I said, "No, I thought I cannot come because I'm not a member and I'm not really able to participate actively." But he says, "No, you can come. Of course, you're my guest." So anyway, I went there for a half day on Saturday. Was it Saturday? No, Friday. Half day, and there we saw, and I was quite disappointed by the smallness of the number of the actual sanghas, ordained sanghas, let alone. Why? Because maybe it was just the members, and there wasn't any Tibetan, not a single Thai. Thai has a lot of Buddhist community. So I would strongly recommend, if anyone like Australia Sangha Association will wish to become the peak body in Australia, they should invite all the Buddhist organizations to come and attend such a meeting and encourage and broaden the scope of the actual Sangha Association as not just for ordained ones. Maybe it looks like ordained only in one tradition and doesn't have any of the other tradition there. For instance, only say 200 meters up the road, there is a beautiful Thai monastery with 8 monks. Not a single one is there the whole time. So I was feeling, I wish we could be more inclusive of laymen. And there's hardly any Caucasian Caucasian Buddhists there, except the fully ordained ones. There's only few, maybe count on and the 3 or 4 of them are academic speakers from different universities, speaking on academically about gender issues and things like that. But actually, the participation was largely the Vietnamese community, who is hosting it, who's cooking, who's feeding, who's washing, who's doing all of that. So I was thinking, I wish we could have get more people involved and open the gate and inviting everyone, not necessarily just the members, but even non-members, and try to every Buddhist organization and try to brainstorm how to make the peak body of Australia Sangha Association or Federation of Australian Buddhist Community or whatever those, how can we broaden these to work together? So, of course, that was my thought. But since I have been to the conference and one of the Vietnamese community members took some good photos, so I thought I could share you some of these photos, because there Ajahn Brahm, all the way from Perth, and some of his monks and some of his disciples from Bandanoon area, and then of course just 1 or 2 senior Buddhist Vietnamese monks, and that's it really, and then so you can see them, and they did a 2-day conference followed by a kind of a arms round on Sunday morning. So these photos I will now ask to share. So this will give you a good example of what would look like a Fourfold Buddhist Sangha community working together. So when you really look, when everybody come together, even though it's a fraction of people come together, there you can see Venerable Thich Kongpa and his community lifted the weight of offering food and offering accommodation and all done by his community. I couldn't see any Thai Buddhists, Burmese Buddhists, or Sri Lankan Buddhists offering any of the arms around. He organized all his devotees, his volunteer people, to cook and give the food and then wait on the road just to observe the tradition. so it's only because of that you could actually see. But otherwise, yeah, there is no real active participation by the other Buddhist community. But I'm sure we could do better than that in the future, not only as a token, but actually make everybody invited to join and encourage, create a roster. That will be good. But I was inspired by the sheer work all done by Venerable Thich Gongpa Shakyamuni Buddhist Monastery and the community. They provide the venue, the accommodation, the food, and then all logistics, everything was organized. So here you can see all the alms bowls of the monastics. They bring them usually with them. And I think some Theravadins really strictly observe this rule of eating only through the alms bowl. So this is the Shakyamuni Buddhist Center, whose main hall still not finished, but has been fully decorated and made it viable for the duration of the conference. So you can see there's not even 30 people there, but it's supposed to be two peak bodies of Australian Buddhist organization. We never receive an invitation, for instance, our organization. I only got invited personally by Venerable Thich Gongpa. So I'm sure there's a lot more work need to be done to encourage the importance of the establishment of the Fourfold Sangha. Even if it's an annual thing, everybody needs to be invited, everybody needs to be included, not just monastics, not just monks, also as a nuns, not just as a monks and nuns, but also laymen and a laywomen, not just a Buddhist laymen and laywomen, but Buddhist organizations, and invite them. So these are like, there's a Kath and a Philippa. These are the only two Aussies. And this rest is the Sri Lankan gentlemen and otherwise the Vietnamese volunteers. So you don't see any of the Buddhist lay people from any of the other community. Is it because they were never invited? Is it because they never were encouraged to participate, or can we not encourage them? So there is definitely an organization called Australia Sangha Association and Federation of Australia. They really need to be more inclusive and organize this in a way this is a great achievement, but I can see much of the work is all done locally by the Venerable Thich Gongpa. But actually the topics and things that are covered seems to like a very, 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 very limited and not inclusive. So that's because all the four members of the Buddhist Sangha associations and organizations has not quite actively participated there. About a month and a half, we had a Tibetan Buddhist teachers and centers had a meeting in Sydney. We had more than 100 people gathered there, came from all the centers and their administrators and all came together. So that shows that the importance of the Fourfold Sanghas should be acknowledged, but you need to, because we live in such a kind of broad part of Australia, they need to be informed well ahead, and the invitation should be given to all, not just to the members, and then encourage people to become members and revisit the actual constitution to improve them, broaden them, make it inclusive. Then you will have actual manpower. And they were saying they have a very limited number of people, and that's because it hasn't been very inclusive. And of course it's a good effort. They at least do this once a year. So all the Buddhist organizations, from experience, it's true, they energy is very much taken up by their own organizations, activities, teachings, classes, meditations, sessions, and being able to do that with other Buddhist communities is very difficult unless it is encouraged, inspired, invited long time ahead in notice. So I strongly urge the ASA and Federation of Buddhist Communities, if they want to be the peak body, they should invite all well ahead of time and ask them to participate, contribute, give suggestions. Then it will happen. But this is not a criticism, but this is more saying, oh, when I saw all the people doing the things, it is possible, even largely from work of the host center, made it all possible for that 2 days. Because Venerable Thich Kongpa arranged all his people, laymen and the monastics, to come and help. Others simply came as a guest and provided the actual running sheet of the conference, which is good, because someone has to do that as well. People like our organization could have been participating in that, but only if we were invited. Only if we knew about it long before. So there is the purpose of this is so that how can we recognize the importance of Fourfold Sangha for Buddhist activities, and how that can be encouraged by careful coordination and inviting different groups. I only saw two or three nuns from FPMT, so which is a good sigh of relief. But otherwise, there's not a single Tibetan Buddhist teacher there, not even as a observer participant like me, let alone speakers or presenters or whatever. So that shows that the Australia Sangha Association is not robust as it should be, inclusive and encouraging and inviting of all Buddhist traditions. So I'm sure it is not a thing that they neglected, but maybe it wasn't in the agenda how to invite more people in the future. So I'm sure in the years after this will happen, because it was a great opportunity for me to meet everybody there and introduce. And I offered one book of mine to each of the participants. So I asked them. So at least I made myself known there. But there are lots of Tibetan Buddhist centers in Australia, nearly 100 of them. Even if one came from each center, there will be 100 Tibetan Buddhist centers, and then we can really make it as a real Australia Sangha Association or Federation of Australian Buddhist Association. Whether they are current members or not, how do you recruit new members? By inviting non-members, because you wanted to represent as a peak body to the Australian government, and to do that you need to have more members and more people to join. So I'm sure this will happen in the future years. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you next time. Thank you.